Good evening. Keith Dunn, Vice President of the New Jersey State PBA, Main Street in Woodbridge. The New Jersey State PBA represents 33,000 members, men and women across the state of New Jersey. We're not here tonight to tell the Union Town Council how to do their job or how to run their town. But what we are here tonight to stand behind President Doherty and Delegate Billy Fuentes to tell you how strongly opposed the state PBA is when it comes to the appropriate authority, not being an administrator, but being a township administrator that has such an adverse relationship with the PBA. There's nothing wrong with a township administrator or a council arguing with PBA officials, PBA officers. That happens, that's business, that takes place every day. What has happened here in Union goes far beyond that, and it's hurt the good members of the Union PBA, and the Jobs in Blue action hurt their families. The Union PBA has, throughout this ordeal, attempted to handle the matter without getting the county PBA or the state PBA involved. President Doherty, Delegate Billy Fuentes, they've done an excellent job trying to handle this in-house. Unfortunately, it's had to come to a different situation now. The state PBA, once again, opposes when an administrator in such an adverse relationship with the PBA gets involved. If this is passed, which signs appear to be going that way, this has all the telltale signs of continued hostility, which harms not only our PBA members, but the ability of this governing body to do their job. Thank you.
Al Catcher, Union resident, retired PBA member, PBA 69 Township Union. I just have a question for the Commissioner. You mentioned before that we have had civilians in a position of Director of Public Safety before. Are you aware, I'm sure you're aware, but I'd just like to make everybody else aware that that was terminated on a mandate by the prosecutor at the time. That the director, as Mr. Florio said, cannot be involved in the day-to-day operation. Now, we have not had one since that time, and because the gentleman at that time tried to get involved with the day-to-day operations and tried to do some of the stuff that's being done now as far as where cars should go and things like that, and that was abandoned on a mandate from the prosecutor at the time. So the public should be aware that you mentioned that we did have that in the past, but on a mandate from the prosecutor it was done, and we haven't had one since. So, and we hadn't had one all this time, and we haven't had the problem since then. What prompted it to come about now that we should go back to having a civilian as the proper authority? I know that legislation-wise and ordinance-wise it's there, and as Mr. Florio said, he can't get involved in the day-to-day operation. But we've gone through this before. And what prompted it to come up again?
Mr. Catcher, I just believe, personally, speaking for myself, that when I walk around this community or speak to the people in this community, they tell me it's changing. Well, we need to do something to keep up with the change. We need to change with the times to make sure we're effectively and efficiently doing the things we have to do to make our community safer. And this is what we're doing.
So you believe that the way it's been going, even though there was a drop in the crime rate and so on, excuse me, and the job that the police department was doing before was inadequate?
I'm not saying inadequate. I'm saying we need to change to do things more efficiently and to get more out of what we have today.
That it would be more efficient to have a civilian in a position that was terminated.
I believe it would be more efficient to have an appropriate authority.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Cass Gaskin. I'm a retired member of the Union Police Department, a life member of the PBA Local 79, Local 69, and I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from New Jersey City University. I was sworn in on October 16, 1975 as Chief Craven. And in all my years, I have never known a man more knowledgeable and more dedicated to law enforcement and to the people of Union than that man. No one. No one. No supposer to a throne. No politically connected person can ever claim to have anywhere near the expertise to run a department the way he can run it. That's ludicrous, that is absurd, and that's a joke. To run a department, you have to have training, you have to have expertise, and you have to have achievement within that department. I don't think Mr. Bradley or any elected person has that. We have always worked well with police commissioners. We usually had a good relationship, and we were one of the most responsive, in my day, one of the most responsive police departments to the community anywhere. When I joined this department, it was the envy of most municipal police departments in the state and in the country. And today, among our peers around this county, we are a joke because politics has decimated this police department, especially the investigative division. Now, members of this department can't speak out against it. That's against their code of ethics and conduct. Ask police officers in surrounding towns what they think of the Union Police Department because of what politics has done to it. They'll tell you it's disgraceful. I have nothing further to say.
Jeffrey Center, 1385 Route 22 East, Mountainside, New Jersey. President, Mountainside PBA, Local 126. I just want to say, I grew up in this town. This is where I was raised. I wanted to be a Union police officer more than anything. It just so happened that I got on the job in Mountainside. I'll tell you right now, what that gentleman just said is the truth. I wouldn't want to come to this town anymore. After what this town has made this police department, I wouldn't want to come here. And I really do feel bad for these guys.
Okay. And again, are you speaking to the ordinance, sir?
Regarding the ordinance, when you're an administrator, when you appoint somebody, do you not want the very best person for the job?
Yes.
And that's this gentleman causing this rift here? That's the very best person for this job?
It's who we feel is the best person at this time, yes.
Thank you very much.
Bobcat, 619 Duquesne Terrace Union. I'm trustee and shop steward for the non-uniformed employees in the town. We stand behind PBA and the fire department and ask that you vote down this or table this, which I know you can do. Doesn't have to be voted on tonight, only needed to be read. I read recently about an investigation into a man when Mr. Bradley was part of the State Investigation Committee.
Okay, again, are you talking to
Yes,
the
I am.
ordinance? You're not talking to the
The
ordinance.
appointing authority, and I'm giving you a reason why he should not be made the appointing authority.
Okay.
Man lost his entire business when he had all his property seized. He's never been charged with a crime. That's not a man that, as a taxpayer of this town, I want to subject myself to by making Mr. Bradley the appointing authority, whether it be city stat or ComStat or anything else. Every department in this town is scrutinized through a microscope every other week. It's ridiculous. All they do is spend a half a day getting abused as to whether they took an extra 2-minute break or somebody called in sick and they don't get work done. You don't have supervisors in the field anymore. You have them doing paperwork at a desk. This is not what we need. For you to have a study for $12,000 to say that you don't need to study to decide it, well, that's my dollars. And while I've been told through negotiations that you have deep pockets, how deep are ours? Our pockets are deep too. This is wrong. You people have eyes, but you don't see. You have ears, but you don't listen. We're telling you not to give up your authority. If you do, maybe the write-in vote that took 20% of your vote away this past time will take your jobs away at the next election.
Gary Cohen, Howell Township, Treasurer, PBA Local 69. First off, Mr. Mayor, you gave some back history tonight congratulating your people. I'd like to congratulate our people, and first our attorney with our contract. Okay, he did a good job. Okay, you also left out one item. There was a grievance filed by the Superior Officers Association.
Again, are you addressing this ordinance, or...
I am addressing the ordinance.
No, you're not. You're talking about something else. You can
Well,
come at the end of the meeting when we have public
Fine.
comments.
When you
Mr.
discuss
Dean.
appropriate authority, you're talking about the individual that you're handing this appropriate authority over to. There's something that needs to be said about the character of that individual, since he will be the appropriate authority. What you've heard people say today should play on your decision tonight. Okay? This is a gentleman whose safety was put in my hands and my partner's hands a few months ago at a fire scene. And for keeping him out of a possible hazmat situation, he then told my supervisor, nobody on this police department tells him what to do. Okay? The public doesn't know that. They do now. When I was being directed by the fire chief and by my superiors to keep the area clear, that gentleman decided to activate lights and sirens and make several motor vehicle violations in an attempt to get into a scene. Again, character about appropriate authority. This is a gentleman that you want to hand over your responsibility to. I remind you, your elected responsibility, okay? You were elected to your positions, and now you're transferring your power to this individual. I believe all of you at one point, including this past November, were elected on your character. That's something that needs to be considered when you do this now. Certainly, if I was to transfer my responsibility as a police officer to someone else, I would be accused of malfeasance or nonfeasance. What will you be accused of? No more.
Roxanne Champy, 277 Beechwood Avenue, and I will continue to keep coming up here. Maya Angelou once said, you may not remember what someone did, you may not remember what someone said, but you will remember how they made you feel. And I have seen the morale of this police department go so low, yet they continue to work very hard under the circumstances of no contract, losing the jobs in blue.
Okay, again, are you talking to
Yes,
the
I
ordinance?
am.
Okay.
Because Mr. Bradley is directly involved with all of this. And I don't know what it takes to get through to everybody. And I will tell you that I have never voted for any of you, and I never will. And as elected officials, I looked at the Union County, I guess they're going to call them stats. 4,728 people were considered undervotes. Undervotes are people that choose not to vote. So that to me is a no confidence. I have no confidence in this township committee.
And again,
I have
you
no
are not.
confidence in Mr. Bradley. I'm very concerned as far as a citizen, and I have a son and I have a husband. We live down the street. I have a concern about safety. I have dealt with Mr. Bradley directly. I've asked for a resource officer up at the high school. He told us, absolutely not, even though there was grant money for that. You sat in that meeting. He was determined and adamant. He did not care. Thank you.